I'm Nadia Ely, and welcome to Grid Resiliency and Beyond. This series showcases our leaders and subject matter experts who highlight the strides and innovations Dominion Energy is making. Today, I'm learning about DVI, short for Dominion Voltage Inc., a subsidiary of Dominion Energy, and the role it's playing in creating a more efficient grid of the future. Joining me to delve into this are DVI Director Stephen Tyler and DVI Senior Business Development Analyst Dan Marcus. Thanks so much for being with me. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. In a previous podcast detailing voltage optimization, DVI and your Edge software applications were mentioned. Can you remind us what DVI and Edge are and how Dominion Energy is currently utilizing them?
So DVI is Dominion Voltage Incorporated. We're a subsidiary of Dominion, but we sell our Edge software across North America to other utilities that control distribution grids. So our Edge software uses input from the smart meters that are now out there to help control the grid more intelligently and save energy, either save energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or to shave peak when it's at most critical demand. Dominion Energy not only owns Dominion Voltage, but is now one of our largest customers. So out of the Grid Transformation Act, Dominion Energy purchased the DVI Edge software and has started implementing it. It is now live. It is controlling a few substations and will be expanded and rolled out to more and more substations over the coming years.
Thanks, Stephen. Dan, what kind of outage events can be mitigated or prevented with advanced voltage control?
Hi, Nadia. Yeah. So as Steve mentioned, our primary use case right now with Dominion is a energy reduction or energy efficiency type of application. However, down the road, with advanced voltage control from Edge, we can expand on the capabilities that Dominion Energy has within its portfolio, and namely the outage mitigation as mentioned. Now, the primary outage event that advanced voltage control can mitigate or even prevent is rotating blackouts. Now, rotating blackouts are a measure of last resort for utilities when unusually high loads, and this is normally due to extreme weather events, exceeds the capacity of the system. Think of a cold snap or a heat wave where lots of customers are using electrified heat or AC for really long periods to combat those weather events. Now, it may seem surprising that the utilities have to literally cut off power to customers, but we have seen this approach used within the last 2 or 3 years all over the country, from the Texas cold snaps in 2021 to even some Christmas blackouts in the Carolinas in 2022. And obviously, no utility wants to completely shut off power to its customers, and that's where DVI and voltage control can come into play. By leveraging an expanded range of voltage delivery during these emergency situations, DVI's Edge system can decrease the load on the utility and on the distribution grid by several hundred megawatts without the need for customers to change their usage or turn down the air, much less have their power cut out. Edge also gives the grid operators the precise knowledge of how much the load is being reduced and from what areas of the grid it is being reduced so that they can make data-driven decisions to keep the grid up and running during the worst of the conditions on the grid.
Thanks so much for explaining that, Dan. Back to you, Stephen. And sticking with voltage control, what updates do we have on the program?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Nadia. We have a number of upgrades coming to our software, partly just dealing with the emergency voltage reduction that Dan just referenced. So we're looking to enhance our capabilities to allow operators to have very clear, precise view into what they can do with the grid with voltage control when they need it most. We're also working with our DERM solution to make sure that we're tightly integrated so that as distributed energy resources, solar panels, electric vehicles, etc., are connected to our grid, they have a definite impact on the grid voltage. And because we're voltage control software, that helps us integrate with DERMS to make sure that as they are bringing these new resources onto the grid, we can help make sure that the grid voltage stays stable and no one gets high or low voltage either from their own solar panels or from their neighbor's solar. So looking to improve the ability of utilities to integrate distributed resources onto their grid is a big part of the future.
Thank you, Stephen. Dan, can you walk me through how this solution provides resiliency to not only our customers, but for our geographic region?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, rolling blackout prevention is the first way voltage control can prevent region-wide customer issues. As you know, Dominion covers a large swath of Virginia and the Carolinas. And so being able to prevent those rolling blackouts in those areas is the first way that DVI's edge solution can provide that resiliency for our grid. Now, the second method pertains to an even wider region, such as the half of the East Coast, for instance. Dominion falls under the authority of a regional transmission organization called PJM. This organization has several major utilities under its purview, ranging from New York, as I mentioned, to the Carolinas, and even as far west as Ohio. In the case of a major emergency event that could span multiple states and see a rapid spike in load, think of a very extreme weather event, maybe a Category 5 hurricane or something, even severe blizzard or something of that nature, PJM can call the utilities under its authority and demand that the utility shed load. And the reason it does this is to make sure that the grid across all of these states, that the capacity is able to meet the demand of the customers. But load shedding is used, as the name implies, to reduce the load and in turn reduce the stress on the grid. So again, everyone's lights stay on. Now, currently, most utilities execute this request in a very manual way, one by one, with an operator who has to manually hit buttons or click through multiple screens and controls in order to make this happen. Not only is it very manual, but they are unaware of how much load is actually being reduced. And that is where DVI's Edge comes into the picture. As Steve mentioned, Edge tells the utility exactly how much load they can reduce in total across their grid and even down specifically to the substation level. In addition, with one single click, within minutes, Edge will shed the exact amount of load that is requested by that utility and provide the feedback to the utility as to where the load is being shed from. So this can reduce the time it takes to execute this load shed event from hours to minutes. And Edge gives utilities the precise tool to execute these load shed requests, and with that, can prevent widespread outages across the greater Mid-Atlantic region.
Sounds like a win-win situation all the way around. Thanks, Dan. The last question I'll direct to both of you. What does the future look like for Dominion Energy and DVI? Stephen, I'll start with you, and Dan, please add your take as well.
Dominion Energy obviously has been in business for many, many years. DVI has only been around for about 10 years. To me, the future looks bright for both as Dominion is looking at ways of incorporating new renewable resources. There's pressure on a ton of load growth at the Dominion service territory, and we're seeing that across the nation. So I think what we're seeing is with the electrification of vehicles, with the new AI push, new data centers, with the tremendous load growth that's out there, combined with the distributed resources going out on the grid, having an advanced voltage control solution that can help stabilize the voltage with the solar panels, et cetera, and then also give the grid operators a powerful tool to shave peak if they need to when load and supply don't exactly match. That is going to be a powerful partnership for DVI and Dominion and how Dominion meets its growing needs, but then for DVI and other utilities across the United States. As demand gets more and more expensive, PJM just dramatically increased the capacity market price for electricity. DVI will be able to help broadly across North America as utilities face this disconnect between capacity and load, and be able to bring those two together with a powerful operating tool for the operators. So I'm very bullish on both DEV and DVI.
Absolutely. And the only other point that I'll add to that is this is really a great case of how utilities are making investments in the future in terms of, let's say, the smart meters, for instance. It took millions and millions of dollars to invest in that infrastructure for those smart meters. And now DVI is enabling Dominion as well as other utilities to get and squeeze even more capability and value out of those large investments. And again, as Steve mentioned, the ability to save the customer energy, to increase the availability of home solar and other distributed energy resources, all of that capability is coming from that initial investment in those smart meters. And so it really is a great example, again, as to how utilities can build even more value out of these really large investments that they're making and really help every single customer in their day-to-day get the energy that they need reliably, safely, and with the best intentions behind it.
Great points from both of you. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, Nadia, I would. And thanks again for hosting this. I would just like to say DVI is very excited to be working with Dominion Energy. We're excited to see where Dominion Energy goes in the next few years with the capabilities that DVI's Edge solution is providing. And we are also excited to expand these capabilities across the United States and Canada to other utilities who face similar challenges to Dominion Energy today.
I'd like to thank Dan Marcus and Stephen Tyler for their expertise and participation. Thanks for listening, and be on the lookout for future episodes. I'm Nadia Ely.